Hey, what's up, guys? So I decided I'm going to do a quick tour of how I would set up my Java environment. The class IT-145 suggests that you use Eclipse, and I think Eclipse is garbage. So I'm going to show you how to set up your environment locally. That's going to be IntelliJ, which I believe is one of, if not the best Java development environment. And we're also going to set up the Java stuff just so you know how to do it from beginning to end. And you can work on Java on your own machine instead of using the crappy Porto machines that are slow and I've heard have problems. So you're going to be able to follow on any operating system, Linux, Mac, or Windows, but for the most part, I'm going to be doing stuff on the Mac today, and I'll briefly explain how you would do it on Windows, which is likely what you're going to be working with. If you're on Linux, use your package manager to install a lot of this stuff, or you'll have to Google it yourself. So without wasting more time, let's get into it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to acquire the development environment. So the way I do it, I use the JetBrains toolbox. So it's this thing here where you can install any IDE they have or any language that you might be working in. But this will only have value if you own or have access to all of the different applications they have. Luckily for us as SNHU students, we have access to this free licenses here for students and teachers. So just go to jetbrains.com, learning tools, students and teachers. What you're going to do is you're going to apply now, and I believe it's just going to ask you for your school email. You're going to say student, undergraduate email address, full name, apply, and they'll send you basically like an activation link in your SNHU email, and it only takes a little bit of time. If you don't want to go through that right now, you just want to see if you like IntelliJ first. There is a free version of IntelliJ, I believe Developer Tools and IntelliJ IDEA, and there's going to be a community button somewhere around here. See, there's Ultimate, which is paid, or Community here, where it is free. And the free one is actually is good enough for anything you're pretty much going to do throughout SNHU mostly. I believe Ultimate has a few benefits in regards to using the Spring framework. You probably don't know what that is, but when you work with the Spring framework, I think there are some second or third year courses, third level courses that use Spring. Ultimate might be useful to have. I use it just because I have access. It's free, so why not? So the way I get it is I find the JetBrains toolbox, which I actually don't know where the link is. Yeah, so I don't find it here. So let's just Google it. JetBrains toolbox here, and it's this toolbox app. And what this is going to do, it's just going to install this app here where you can manage your installations. It'll tell you when you need to update stuff. You can update them from here as well. So download this for your system. If you're on Apple Silicon like I am, make sure that you switch to Apple Silicon. I'm not going to download it here because that's what the toolbox is for. So we're going to go inside here and I'm going to install IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate. If you have the toolbox, you can also install Community Edition. So we're just going to wait for that to happen, and then I'll be right back to continue with this. So now that we have IntelliJ IDEA installed, let's open it using our toolbox or inside our application thing here. I should have it somewhere in here. Yeah, IntelliJ IDEA. So open that, and you'll get a new project window like you see here. Now, to start off, we're going to create a new project. We're going to hit new project. You're not going to have this Temurin 17 in the list. You're going to only have download JDK or add JDK, or in the off chance that you already installed your JDK separately while you're trying to install Eclipse, you might have the JDK you have installed in this list. If you don't have a JDK installed, click download JDK. And I would suggest choosing Temurin, Eclipse Temurin, the Adopt Open JDK one, or the Oracle one. Those seem to be the most used ones. And I'm using JDK 17 as it's the newest one, and also it has native ARM Apple Silicon support. So click Oracle, open JDK, and hit download. And you'll see it'll download like this. And with it downloaded, hit next. You can create a project from template, but we actually don't want that because we're keeping things very simple for this. because we're going to be integrating the stuff we need to do for IT-145 in here. So hit next in here, and then here you're going to click, you're going to just name your project. I'm going to just call it example application, and hit finish. So the reason we made this example application is so that we can see roughly, we can do a few things with it. The first one we're going to do is we are going to create our Java application file itself. So we are going to create a new file, and we'll call it, we'll actually just call this example. So we're going to create a new file, right click on source, click new, and then Java class. And we're going to call this example application, and that will create an example application.java. And this has a .java extension to it. And then I believe, I don't remember the, I think it's static void main string args. And it's probably public static void main args. That'll be your main function. I believe you can also right click here and go, there's probably generate main. Yeah, so IntelliJ has some code generation that you can do. If you type in main and you hit enter, you'll see we get the same public static void main string args, which is the entry point to your application. And just as to show you how to run the thing, we're going to put system.out.println, and as almost everything we want to do hello world. And with that, we'll be able to run. Now, to run applications inside IntelliJ or any JetBrains project, what you're going to need is a run configuration here. Now, you can do it manually by clicking the plus, finding your Java target or whatever inside here, and it's pretty difficult to get things running this way because you need to know exactly what you want. The simplest way I know how to do it is you see here on our example application, there's this little play icon next to it. That means it has a main function inside. So you can actually right click this example application and you'll see it says run example application main. Click that and you'll see it'll build in the bottom. It will build in the bottom, it'll parse the Java, and then it will run and it will give you the output in your terminal window or your run window, hello world. And that's your Java stuff. You don't need to look at that. Now, what you'll have noticed is that the run applications we looked at just a second ago, you see example application is here. What I suggest you do is go into edit configurations, and in here what you'll see is example application. Hit the save button, you'll see it goes from gray to white. That means that it'll save that run configuration for future use. So every time you close and reopen your project, that's not going to disappear as long as you don't delete your IDE settings or your project IDE settings. Now your project IDE settings, for example, the run configuration we just showed, and the JDK selection and stuff like that, those are inside this .idea folder. So if I would suggest that to not delete this idea folder. So we have this example application. So with that, we're ready to do Java development. What we're going to do now is look at the assignment, and we're not going to do the assignment, but I'll show you. So this one basic thing is write a class. He gives you UML and stuff to follow, but in general, what you're going to want to do is in here in your source directory, just as we created this example application, you can hit right click, new Java class, and the class that they want is dog or cat. We're going to create a dish, as in like dishes. Let's do the dishes. So this will create a class dish. And this is where you're going to put all of your stuff. So a dish will have, let's say, depth, if there's a bowl, int, or float, depth in millimeters, private, this should probably just be a double. And private, double. No, we're doing floats. And let's say radius and stuff like that. Right? And then we can give it a constructor. We can give it a constructor, public dish, and then let's say depth in millimeter equal 0.0, radius equal 0.0. And it's the float and the f at the end, right? So this is how you would go to create a class in IntelliJ. Now let's say this is your dog class. Let's just rename it. Let's rename it dog. So in here, we right-click dish, we'll refactor, rename, and we'll call it dog. And once we rename it dog, it'll actually rename all of the instances of dish to dog. I just do that to show you roughly how you're going to be trying to do it. So right-click your dog file, and you're going to find a open in Mac it says Finder. In Windows, I think it says File Explorer, and Linux, it probably says Files or something like that if you're on Ubuntu. So click the thing that opens this, and you'll find your dog.java file. Now, that is what you're going to want to submit. So go to your Submit Assignment, add a file, My Computer, and then drag it into there. I'm not going to do it. I've already submitted it. So if we go a little bit further into the class, into IT-145, you're going to see, let's look at the next coding assignment, which is going to be 5.4, and it's going to be very similar for the other ones. But for 5.4, you've got this menu loop and monkey intake. You're going to want to look at the rubric. You're going to get this grazioso.zip folder, which you're going to need to edit and make do the things you want it to do, right? So download this zip file, and what you will do is, since you have that zip file now, we'll go into our download. We are going to open it, and we'll open that folder in Eclipse, and we'll see what happens. Or in Eclipse, in IntelliJ, and let's see what happens. You know what? I would actually make it just simpler. Go into your folder, go inside here, create, just here, you want to just make a new folder. Where's the new folder button inside Finder? I'm not a Mac person usually. I actually just got this Mac recently. New terminal. You know what? I'm gonna do this in a very make dir source. So however you do it, make a directory called source and put it inside your Grazioso folder. What you should probably do is, let's close this, is close IntelliJ and then restructure your directory, open IntelliJ. So once again, now we open this. Now that we have a source folder, it's going to detect that it's a relatively properly structured Java file. You see it looked this up. Now if you look here, it's going to go and you have a bunch of red stuff here because you have project JDK not defined. Hit setup SDK, pick the one you wanted. I had open SDK, and there we go. And with that done, we have a few problems. So doglist.add, this is a, you're going to ignore it technically. This is technically because you're adding a dog, and it's a weird error that actually shouldn't even be, it's not even real. But the problem is that it can't access dog. See here, it can't access pet. So what I did to fix this now is you could right-click your project and go optimize imports. Then hit run, and that should fix the issue that we had where our driver class couldn't find dog. It still has this doglist.add error. That's something that's probably a difference between old JDK and new JDK. But the basic idea is that the dog class that they provided us doesn't have a default constructor. So I'll do this. If I just make a private dog, then that solves it. Basically, it didn't have a default constructor, so adding one or hiding the default constructor made it so that it could do it, and then you can actually remove it and then everything's fine. It's just a quirk in the way we imported the files. But now that we have all of the Grazioso stuff working inside IntelliJ, we can actually start working on the project. So you notice here, like I said, this driver class has this little play icon on it. That means that this has the main function. So if you look inside here, we can find the main function here. So if you just right click that and hit run driver main, you can see it builds, and then it will run. and it just closes because it doesn't actually do anything. I'm not going to actually start filling anything in here to make it do stuff, but for example, let's just put a same thing, system.out.line. Here is your main function. And if we hit play on that, here's your main function. So it runs the main function and does everything else. And once again, I would suggest clicking the arrow here, edit configurations, and saving this run configuration here so that you always have access to it every time you come back and you don't need to right click this and run. But with that done, you're able to do everything you need to do. And when you get to further assignments, so let's say you finish everything. Let's just, I don't want to do, the assignment for you because I don't want to break any rules on what I am or am not allowed to show you. So let's just say you do the assignment, which is it's like making a monkey class or something. You need to give it. Let's look at our rubric. Where is my Chrome? There it is. So module 5 rubric. So what you need to do, if you look at what you need to submit, you have your submissions here, and it should be in a grazioso.zip folder, right? Containing all 4 of these following files. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your, if you look at here, you can either go to where you had it. So I had it in here. This is where all of the stuff is. So everything I do inside IntelliJ is going to affect the files I've had down here. But if you didn't know, if you couldn't remember where you put it, you can also go to your IntelliJ, right-click any of these files, even here, and go View, Open in Finder, Files, File Explorer, whatever it's called, hit Finder, and it'll take you there. Now, what I would suggest is they only want your Java files because it's an Eclipse project file, which I assume they call it an Eclipse project file, I think is what they call it here. Eclipse project file. Eclipse. Upload the Grazia into Eclipse. The folder contains 3 starter code files. Yeah, whatever. It should compile without error. Okay. So that's how you would get that set up. You have your files, and then you want to put them in a zip folder, so you can just, in most operating systems, I think maybe all of them, maybe Linux, you can't do it. Right click this and hit compress, and I believe in Windows it'll be right click, send to zip folder. Just hit compress. See, it creates an archive.zip here. We call this, we just name it the same thing that it wants. It wants a grazioso.zip. So we would rename this grazioso.zip, and then we would submit that as our file here, 5.4, add file, and upload it as you normally would. So I know this might have been a little bit long. It was longer than I had originally meant it to be, but that will get you through setting up everything up to here. Your last assignment, our last assignment, I should say, assignment project 1, and even project 3 is you got to, actually all of them, even I believe this one here, validating user input and debugging. It's the same idea. It's going to get, if you look at the rubric, it's going to give you a zip file. You're going to set it up inside your inside IntelliJ the exact same way, and I'm actually going to delete this. I don't care. You're going to set it up in IntelliJ the same way, so I'll just show you quickly. Download it, go to the folder, open, archive, unzip it. This one only gives you a paint1.java, so what I would suggest here, I'm going to use terminal again just because it works easier for maker paint cd paint maker source, and then here if I look here, that gave me a paint source directory. Put paint inside there. Go to IntelliJ. Open that folder. Open, and then downloads a paint. Just open that folder in this window. You can see here you have your source file, project ADK not defined, setup SDK, choose the one you want, and then you're done. Now there's the whole point of this, I believe, was that there were errors that you need to fix, debugging the original code. So I'm not going to fix it. But this is what it's going to look like when you're done. It's not going to run, but it does have the main function. So you can right click it, hit run. It's going to give an error. So yeah, it's going to give an error. When you get that error, that's the error you're going to need to fix. Or one of the errors you're going to need to fix probably. So again, edit configuration, save this, and now you can run this Paint application. Let's do it again one more time for just hammering it home. This is the best way to learn something. Let's look at our assignments to close some of these rubrics. Close that one. So we looked at this one. We looked at this one. We looked at project 2 is the same as project 5, or 5 is a milestone. 7.3, same idea, I believe. It's going to give you a program. It's going to give you Paint 2. So download this, gives you Paint 2, open it. It gives you a paint2.java file. We'll open that in terminal. We'll go back to downloads. We're going to make dir paint2, cd paint2, make dir source. And then we are going to go inside here and put our paint2.java inside our source directory like this. And then we will open IntelliJ. We will open the project. This time we will open Paint2. It's going to give us the same warning, JDK is not defined. Setup, pick the one you installed. Everything is good to go. Right click this, run Paint2 main, and then it will run, it will compile, and there we go. And then you can, the terminal down here, you can also put stuff inside here. So if you do 3, and there you go. There you go. So that is how you're going to set up these projects for IT-145 inside your IntelliJ if you want to avoid the headache of using Eclipse. And that's everything. So maybe I'll make another one of these sometime for a different class, but see you next time.